circle complete. But I'm celebrating this as a step towards where we truly want to be.
Absolutely, and it is what it is. Let's go straight into map number 1 here. Between these two, starting in the bottom left-hand side of the map. The champ from the Oceania region, it is Probe.
And that of course means that in the top right side of Oxide, we are looking at the main base of arguably one of the top favorites to take down this entire tournament. But he said he's even a bit nervous about the group stage, and perhaps rightfully so. This is Maru.
I was very impressed with some of Maru's recent PvT. Just feels like he can do any build. He reads the game really well. If you play gateway heavy style, he'll mix in Ghost, he'll go for the right timings. And Maru, I feel like against Protoss, he's always been known to be this guy that's always very aggressive. Back in the day when Colossus was like the main tech, he was one of the first few guys to set up those great engagements. And I feel like he's still kind of like, I don't want to say innovating, but he's still ahead of a lot of the Terrans in the pack, I would say.
And he's still got that killer instinct, right? And that's what I like about Maru. I feel like sometimes he can too be a no-nonsense Terran. Even though he's such a complete player, we've already sang all the praise that that young man deserves. But what I like about Maru is that it doesn't always have to be pretty. If he feels he just needs to get the job done with a couple of boys on the other side of the map, he will do that. Now let's see what Probe is up to, because I think that we can all kind of expect Maru to have a slow and steady, solid approach to this best of 3. The boys at the desk, or the guys at the desk, of course Zombie Grub included, said they hope to see Probe do something wild, do something back from the past. Maybe this Probe on the top left side is gonna drop, I want to say a pylon, but then he drops his second pylon in the natural. So what is that Probe up to, Jan Merle?
Yeah, I mean, the SCV was still there, so maybe he wanted the SCV to see that, and there might still be something going down down the line, or maybe he can just save that for a pylon later on. Maru just plays rock solid. It's very hard to catch him off guard. Maybe, obviously, it beat a matchup, you know, like Protoss against Terran. It's always going to be hard to scout everything that could be there. But Maru's style is just, like, we know what to expect from him. Just great build orders, great execution. It's for Probe to try and decide what's the best game plan for him. And I don't think that playing fully standard and macroing will be the right choice at all.
No, I'm with you there. And I think that everyone kind of feels like that. I mean, Probe, this is perhaps not your one-shot, one opportunity, but you don't get to play against Maru each and every single day. They actually only played against each other once throughout the history of StarCraft 2. And that is 4 years ago. So this really is a special matchup. And look at Probe. He's going for the proxy robo. Now, a little while ago, I've been like, what the hell is this? But I actually believe that I saw Trap do this a couple of days ago, where it was basically an observer rush shot, believe it or not. But it's just a really quick observer to grant high ground vision for these Stalkers. Because a lot of Terran players, they like to skip the bunker on Oxide, because they're like, hey, we've got high ground vision, nothing that Protoss can do about it. Well, Maru is not going to skip the bunker. But if you rush out an observer, you actually have that high ground vision immediately, and the Stalkers can be real annoying. Unfortunately for Probe, there is going to be a bunker.
Yeah, Trap is the one Protoss that has been doing well against Maru. He recently tied him. He also had a victory against him, whereas like Zest, you know, been having a bit of a harder time. So Probe probably studied those games and he was like, okay, well, there is something that I can use for myself, and he might turn the tables on him. Just play like Trap.
It is really cool to see him indeed opening up with the Observer. It's a little bit unfortunate for Probe that he's not catching that lucky break here when Maru decides to cut a corner. But also kudos to Maru. We've been singing his praise. We obviously see him as the better player in this best of 3. And then you don't need to play too greedy as a Terran. So why not go ahead and invest in that bunker? Does pick up his 2 Widowmine studs. He's going to send those to the other side of the map. And this game is actually going to get involved. Wow, Probe is just immediately like, hey man, I know about this. My Stalkers are here. And I'm going to keep this at bay. And I like this because Probe doesn't have quick Twilight Council, doesn't have a Stargate. So dealing with any sort of harassing your main base is really hard. Can these Stalkers actually they can get in range? Yes, Maru is forced to unload at least 1 Widowmine. This is a funny start thought to this best of 3.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying for Maru that this was delayed, this counterattack, but at least he kept the Medivac alive and he spotted that, you know, there's going to be this attack potentially happening down the line. Now, Probe, can he be ready at home? He has only 1 single Stalker.
Supply block. The man is actually supply block, cannot warp in an extra unit here. Ooh, actually the Widowmine connects with the Stalker. So obviously it's Stalker and lost mining time. At this point, Probe is kind of in a spot where I feel like he's starting to be a bit committed. Now obviously most of the time when you have a robot and a warp gate in the center of the map, it's always committed. But like, it looks good, right? It's like, oh, he's 8 workers ahead. But his army's not going anywhere anytime soon. As this Widowmine is just casually walking into the natural. I'm not sure if Probe's paying attention. He is, but he doesn't have the DPS to prevent this mine from burrowing. Maru with the on-burrow? No on-burrow.
That was scary for a second. With all these probes clumped up. The War Prism is finally about to go. He has to go for it here. And he does do that here. The bunker is going to fall very quickly. There is a tank on the high ground. That's a lot of stalkers. The War Prism gets there. There's going to be so much micro potential.
No, stop! He shot at his own prism, Todd. All of his stalkers shot at his own prism. Not once, but twice almost. Or maybe not all of them at once, but he just did a lot of damage to his own prism. Poor Probe, maybe feeling the nerves a little bit.
Deep. All right, he comes back in. The tanks are being very well covered here from damage, with all of the Marines being at the front. Maru's being very patient, still mining from the expansion. I have to leave that.
You have to kill the tank. You have to kill the tank here. Oh no, he doesn't get the tank immediately, and he still doesn't get the tank. Oh my goodness. That Immortal will get the shot off in the end, but not before Probe lost almost each and every single unit. That went about as bad as it could have gone for Probe. Oh, it started off with him almost gunning down his own prism, and that's a really big deal, because the tanks are very hard to pick off. So what you want to do is pick up your Immortals, drop them in the range of the tank, snipe the tank, and pick the Immortals back up. But you can't do that if your prism has 10 HP. Then he eventually went for it, thought he was in range with enough units, but unfortunately his own Immortals were blocked by his Stalkers, so he didn't have the DPS to gun down the tank, and that is all he wrote for game 1.
I wonder if he was nervous or something. You know, like sometimes you psych yourself up, especially going into a match like this. It just feels like, you know, you're a lamb to the slaughter almost. It's like Maru first match of the tournament, so you psych yourself up and then you don't play nearly as well as you usually would if it was just a ladder game or something. You've been there too, right? Like I remember you playing in tournaments and talking about how nervous you were getting in the casters tournaments.
Oh, just the other day I got very nervous. Thought all of a sudden I had to play a couple video games I did not expect, and I'm like, my goodness, I'm too old to play video games under pressure. That's a shame, because you can obviously say that maybe Probe should just go in here with the nothing to lose, everything to win attitude, but that is so much easier said than done. When you've been waiting for this tournament, when you qualified for it, when you're representing your region, you do want to put up one hell of a fight. Yeah. I like the build he chose. This is the kind of build that can work in multiple moments. At first, if there's no bunker, those stalkers can be really annoying, and then everything can actually go well. I felt like he did a good job in putting pressure on the medevac. It's just the actual attack. Yeah, pretty much a disaster.
If we resume from replay as the attack started and we put you in Probe shoes, what do you think are your chances to make this work?
I would mess up more than Probe would, absolutely, 100%. No,
I thought you were going to say I would 100% win.
No, because I think Maru was always quite ready for it. The Marine count was high. Don't forget that he's got a Raven there too, so if you do want to get adventurous with the War Prism, an Interference Matrix could land. If Maru doesn't have any tanks, Todd, then the sky's the limit. But Maru being Maru, he did have tanks.
Yeah, he had the Raven as well. I think the counter drop with the Widowmines told him pretty much everything he needed to know in terms of how many gates there were, how many units there were at home. There was nothing. The gases on the expansion were a little late, so he's like, okay, well, I just know you're coming. And at first it looks like, you know, he's losing the bunker quickly and it's bad, but no, he meant for that to happen. He knew that he didn't need to commit at that first big ramp, because that was always going to fall.
Yep.
Straight into map number 2 on 2K atmospheres here, starting at the top right-hand side of the map, playing as the blue Protoss. Bro. I don't know that he's feeling like this right now.
I mean, the fans are, Todd. The fans are. They see a beautiful studio. I gotta say, the Monster Energy DreamHack studios are absolutely marvelous. I guess it's been a long time since I've seen any other studio than my own little gaming room, so everything looks impressive, but I'm like, damn, gaming is back! In the bottom left side of 2K Atmospheres, we're looking at the main base of the man who took care of business in that first game, stayed calm and composed. Kind of what we got used to him at this point. This is Maru.
Maru's got a great poker face.
So does Zest, mate. Have you ever seen Zest after a 35-minute banger? You'd be like, whoa, he's gonna be aesthetic. Grabs his coffee.
he's always drinking the smoothie as well, like this iced coffee. I'm like, how is he so fit? Zest is just a wonder, isn't he?
It really is. I still kind of like that first game, even though it perhaps ended a bit shortly, and the actual attack, like I said, was a bit of a disaster. But I like the idea, I like the strategy, and I think that Probe did a couple of things quite well, in which he can hopefully put some confidence and take that confidence and bring it into game 2. I do want to maybe mention one more thing. Some people may think like, oh, did Probe really have to make that attack? Wasn't he 8 workers ahead? Couldn't he have just dropped the Robo Bay and take the game from there? It's very complicated. because your tech is in the center of the map, so there's a good chance you're eventually going to lose your Robo if you don't do anything, because there will be a moment where the Terran army just becomes better. They get Stim, they get Combat Shield, they have a couple tanks, so it's very hard to just easily transition. And on top of that, he doesn't have a good defensive setup, because just gateway units and a Robo, it's impossible to kill Medivacs.
Yeah, no, he had no tech whatsoever other than that Robo. There was no third Nexus either. He just skipped that entirely, just went for a lot of units instead. It did feel like the push had potential, so maybe just, if he has something similar planned, focus a lot more on the execution. Ideally, no friendly fire, you know, like that thing's always on. You don't kill your own Prism. That's usually kind of bad. And Maru, this is pretty much his go-to build to always open with a quick reactor. Get that bunker to be safe with the command center on the low ground, and then usually it's either 3 racks or he'll go into the factory like this, then into starport. And I've seen him do this really good double Hellion into double Widowmine drop, which is really, really good.
It's funny how 3 racks for a while was like, oh, 3 racks is a newbie build. Nobody does it anymore at the pro level. And it truly came back swinging. I think especially against target openings, 3 racks are very good. And even in TVZ, we're starting to see some 3 racks. And I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to talk about that build later in this tournament, because it's been getting some traction. And even though the Terrans are like, oh, it's not good, I see them do pretty well with it, Todd.
Well, the Terrans, you know, depends who's talking.
You can't trust them. They're up 12 SCVs and 4 Mules, and they're like, I feel economically behind. And we're like, come on! There is no way! We've got 2 Adepts and an Oracle in production, or 2 Adepts are out on the map and the Oracle is on the way. Maru has no idea about this target, correct? And I don't think he has done any scouting whatsoever. It's obviously not been a Reaper opening. Whoa! 334, third Nexus probe. A man of extremes. First game, pretty aggressive. Second game, he's trying to get away with a lot of greed.
And I like that. Like, it feels like he has to try something, so this time he's going to do the opposite from last game. He's going to be really, really greedy. Now it's a lot about, can he defend what's going to be thrown at him? Because we already see there's a lot of Marines, actually, with a death falls here in the center. And there's soon going to be a Medivac. A Cyclone's being added on as well, so Maru is just kind of mixing in a little bit of everything at this point.
Yeah.
You can expect him to start moving out very soon.
Todd, the fact that he opened up with a tank, though, that means he doesn't have a lot of anti-air. And this Oracle, like, Probe might be a bit worried about Widow Mines, but he's like, hey, I don't see a mine, so he's just gonna go for it. And Pulsar Beam is gonna be able to kill quite a few SCVs. The biggest problem is that army that's heading towards the other side of the map. Because of the way that Probe opened, he doesn't have a really good army, but sometimes just 5-6 gateway units can be enough. But this is going to be real difficult. He does not have a shield battery. Uh-oh, I don't know if Probe can defend this target. Yeah,
the shield batteries are so late here. He barely has any units. Tank is already there and sieged up. Maru throws down 2 bunkers. He's got so many Marines. Probe is 8 units short here of defending this, it feels like.
Yeah, the Oracle wants to gun down the tank, but the Marines are going to go for the Oracle immediately. Second Oracle comes out from the other side of the map. That one gets picked off too. The Adepts are getting blown to pieces. And all that's left are a couple of probes that will kind of reduce the Marine count, but won't be able to kill all the Marines. 21 probes have fallen. The Oracles have died. The Stalkers are in a very awkward spot here. I'm afraid that this is going to be all she wrote for our first best of 3 of the tournament.
And much like last game, you know, it looked better than it actually was here for a second. Probe killed a bunch of SCVs, but his greedy build completely gets punished by this move out by Maru, who was probably counting on this. As soon as he saw the Oracle in his base, he's like, alright, you probably got nothing at home. And these Marines, that one tank and those bunkers, now finding so much damage. They're equal on the walker counts, but there's barely any army for Probe still.
Yep, I mean, and the problem as well is that Stalkers are not great at gunning down a bunker. Maru really wants to empower these gateways one more time. One gate is just going to fall. The Cyclone needs one more hit, gets the hot pickup as well. Maru is really getting an insane amount of value out of this push. Maybe Probe can eventually warp in enough units to take this out. The problem is the damage has already been dealt. Maru at this point is 2 workers ahead. I do like that Dark Shrine, though. If there's ever a way, it's gotta be with the Dark Shrine, but I'm afraid that Maru is not gonna make it that easy. We do have a battery overcharge in the back of the natural. Unfortunately, these Stalkers are forced to fight so far away that battery overcharge can't shine the way it normally does.
Yeah, he had all the probes on the assimilator as well here for a moment. Probe trying to stay alive, but there's just too much, and Maru cruise control here. A safe and quick 2-0.